Okay, so we're getting ready to do our next activity in Photopea, and this one is called a frosted background. So we're going to start in Google, and we're going to search for an image that just reminds you of autumn. So I just searched for autumn, clicked on images, and brought up all these beautiful pictures of fall leaves, something that we don't see a lot of in here in California in this area because we don't have a lot of trees that change. So I'm going to find one that I like. It doesn't matter which one I choose. I think I'm going to choose this one. I'm going to click on it once just because it gives me a slightly bigger image of it. Then I'm going to right click and choose copy image. Now that I've got my image copied, I'm going to go to Photopea, either knowing the website by heart or by using the link that's in Google Classroom. When Photopea opens, I'm going to use create a new project. And I'm not going to pick a size, a ready-made size, because Photopea is going to automatically choose the width and height of the image that I saved. So I'm going to call this frosted background. Go ahead and click create. And then I'm going to paste my image. I'm either going to right click, oh no, no. I'm going to paste my image onto Photopea by going to edit and paste. So now I've got my image in Photopea, the background layer. I have layer 1 that has my autumn scene in it. I'm going to leave that named just the way it is for right now. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer. So I'm going to go to Layer, New, Layer. And now I'm going to choose the Rectangle Select tool, which is over here on the side. It's the second one. It's got a rectangle in it. And I'm going to draw. I'm going to start off the edge of my image, and I'm going to draw a bar across my image and down a little bit. Now notice that I started off the image and I ended off the image. That way I'm sure my image goes, or my bar goes all the way on both sides. Okay, so now I've got a bar, a rectangle select here. I'm going to get my paint bucket tool, which I do that by clicking on the gradient tool and then choosing paint bucket. Then I need to change my color, make sure my color down here is white. Now mine defaulted to white because that was the color I last used. If yours is a different color, just click on it, and then white should be one of your options down here. If it's not, then you need to change this hex code right here to FFFFFF, or just drag your color picker up into this corner to get a white. Okay, and then you're going to click OK. Make sure my paint bucket is selected, and I'm going to drop a white layer in there. So now I have layer 1, that is my colorful image. Layer 2 is my white bar. Okay, so now I'm going to change some layer styles. The easiest way to get to layer styles is to just double click on the layer. So I'm going to click here twice and bring up my layer style menu. I'm going to change this fill percentage to about 60, somewhere around 60. You don't have to be exact, just somewhere around there. I'm going to click on the word stroke. This will change. You'll get a check mark here. I'm going to make my size 3. I'm going to make my fill color white. So I'm going to click on that and choose white. And I'm going to leave everything else set the way it is. I'm going to click OK. So now you'll see there's a small little white line. And I'm actually looking at that and thinking, you know what? I don't think that's a thick enough line. I'm going to make it a little thicker. So you can play around with this stroke number a little bit. I'm going to try 5. And it will change. If you see behind, over here behind my layer style screen, you'll see it change as I move this bar. So you can see what it's changing to. So I want a small little line, but I need to be able to see it. That's too big. So somewhere, 3 was too small. 7, 14 is too big. Let's go up to 7 because that looks pretty good. 7 looks good. Okay, I'm going to click OK. Now I've got a little white line around here. This next step is a little challenging. I'm going to create another new layer. This next little bit's a little challenging, but the first thing I want to do, so I don't mess up my background layer, is I'm going to make a copy of it. So I'm going to click on layer 2. Notice there's still these marching ants here. I haven't touched them. But I'm going to click on layer 1. I'm going to go to layer, duplicate layer. Now I'm going to make sure layer 1 copy is selected, that I still have these marching little ants here. Then I'm going to go to filter, blur, and I'm going to choose this blur right here. I'm not real sure how to pronounce it. There's a lot of different ways, so I just don't say it. So I'm going to click this blur, and it's going to come up, and I'm going to want my blur to be around 7. So this is something that changes the blur of the background. You can see now it's blurred so you can't even see it. All the way to down here, nothing. It doesn't blur it at all. So you want to have a blur that it's frosty looking, but you can still see what it is behind it. Okay, so pick something that works for your image. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now, all right, so for our next step, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to check the blur tool. I'm sorry, the brush tool. I'm going to change my size of my brush. I'm going to change that in a second. So I'm just going to leave that for right now. But I'm going to change my hardness all the way down to 0. That means it's a very, very soft brush. Okay. Then I'm going to come down here with my brush. I'm going to click off that that drop down so that it goes away. And now you can't barely see it. My little brush is down here. It's really, really small. So I'm going to make my brush bigger by clicking the bracket key. So when you're looking at your keyboard, you look at the letter P. Next to it is the left bracket, and then right after that is the right bracket. Clicking on the right bracket will make my brush get bigger. So see how my circle is getting bigger, 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 bigger. Clicking on the left bracket makes it go smaller. I want to put my brush here, and I want to find a size that's about the size of half of my bar. Okay, so it was really little. When I put that here, that's not half of my bar. So if I make it bigger, move it down, now that's a little too big. So I want it to just be a little bit smaller till it's about half the size of my bar. Okay, again, I've still got my marching little ants. I'm on the layer 1 copy. Now I'm going to draw some highlights. I'm going to take my brush, again, I'm going to start off the picture, and I'm just going to click and drag across the picture until I get this nice little line. So you'll notice when I drew that, let me do it again, let me undo it. I started with my brush all the way off to the side, but about halfway through my line. So you can see my circle, the top of that bar is about halfway through that circle. I don't want to do it down here because that's just going to take up too much space. I want to do it about halfway through that circle. I want to start off my circle because if I start here, then you see a starting point, and I don't want to see a starting point. So I'm going to start off the edge of my circle, and I'm going to draw a line across the top of that. I can't do that in one fell swoop, which is fine. I'll just keep going. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. I'm going to start off the edge of the page. I'm going to draw it across till I run out of mouse pad. Then I'm going to come back and finish it all the way across. So now there's a little bit of a brighter spot there. I'm going to come over here and change this opacity back to 60% so it matches the layer below it. Okay, maybe a little darker so you can see it a little bit more. Now that I've done that, I can go to select, deselect, and I've got my frosted bar. Okay, so now we have our image, we have our bar. The last thing we need to do is put some text on it. So I'm going to click on my text tool. I'm going to choose a font that I like and something that's going to kind of suit the idea. I used Condiment for my last one that I did. I don't want to use that one again. So I'm going to choose, I don't know, maybe ClickerScript. Maybe that'll look neat. And I'm going to make my font as big as it'll go because I'm going to need it to be pretty big. I want to keep the color at black. So I'm going to click down here and I'm going to type whatever I want to say. And I'm going to choose something that's sort of fall-like. So maybe falling leaves or crisp air or pumpkin spice latte. Something that makes you think of fall or autumn. And I'm just going to type it. And I have decided in typing this that I don't like this font. I'm going to go ahead and click OK on it anyway. And then I'm going to click this character button here because I really don't like this font. I'm going to change my ClickerScript font to something a little different. Don't think Coiny is going to really suit the idea I'm looking for, but I'm going to go with Coiny. Okay, now it's okay for its size, but I think it could be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go to Edit, Free Transform, and then I get these little bars and boxes around it. So just like with Google Slides, this is the same idea. Okay, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to grab it and move it around so I get it about in the center, and then click OK, click my check mark. Okay, but I don't want it that dark. That's pretty glaring in front of me. So I'm going to go over here and get rid of my characters. I don't need anymore. This right here where it says normal, that's called the blend mode. And I'm going to click on the blend mode, and there's all these different modes. And we're going to play with a lot of them later on in the year. But for right now, we're going to choose overlay. And that makes it, makes it basically go away. So now you can still see it through there. Okay. And I'm going to play with my opacity. So the last thing I want to do, on my last step, I want to change the opacity of this layer that I just put on here because it's still a little, stands out just a little bit. So I'm going to play with it, and yours is going to be different. All of these steps I show you, whenever there's a slider, unless I specifically say change it to this, you're going to have freedom to change it with whatever you want on your slider. Okay, so I'm going to mess with this a little bit until I get something that it still stands out. It's not quite so obvious. I kind of like that. I think that looks pretty good. So my project is done. I'm going to go ahead and save it and download it as a PNG or JPEG and then attach it to my Google Classroom.